I'm fine. I'm good. I'm actually good. Welcome back for another episode of Spice to Meet You, the podcast that asks, who does that guy know? Today I talked to a good friend of mine, Adam Brown. He's a sound designer, composer for video games, and his very first published game title is coming out very soon. It's called Duck Paradox, and it will be on Steam. We talk about that and other things in this episode. Let's get right to it. Podcast. Today I'm talking to Mr. Adam Brown. He is a game audio person, folk. He's kind of, we're similar in that we're pursuing similar careers in game audio and sound design and music and composing, and we kind of come from the similar sphere of cruise ship work. We know each other through Eric Lundgren, who is the pioneer guest on Spice to Meet You. I met him at weird. I actually met you in VR. Now that I think about it, because it was Game SoundCon. Yep. Yeah. I didn't actually meet you face to face. Well, anyway, whatever. I was in VR interacting with Eric Lundgren's avatar, and in my Oculus. Was it AltSpace VR for the convention?
AltSpace VR.
Yeah,
yep.
And you were there, so it's Eric through. You had met we had met once before in very brief passing.
We did in passing in a different country. Just like pure happenstance meeting, pretty much.
Yeah.
So.
And then so we just sort of like got talking at that thing, and you're you helped me out with a bunch of like Fmod stuff, and I helped you with some sound design stuff, and it was good. Yeah. But yeah, so like where do you come from and where are you headed, sir?
Sure. So I'll try to keep it short, I guess. So I grew up playing music. I think I've been playing music since first grade, really. My friends and I actually in middle school couldn't get into our school's jazz combo because we weren't good enough yet. So we actually ended up creating our own outside of school there, which then we entered into like the competitions and stuff. Competing against the school. And it wasn't like we know better than you or something like that. No, we were just so interested in trying to learn like these skills that we just went ahead and tried our best to do it professionally. So, in seventh grade, we're trying to book gigs at like clubs and stuff like that, and had some fun times. So, I've been attempting to work professionally with sound for a long time, and then doing it, of course, for a long time as well. I started out just really wanting to perform a lot. So that's what I focused everything on. That carried me through, of course, high school, college, all that stuff. And so I've been performing for a really long time. And after college, I sought to do that. So I played in a number of bands and stuff. I started doing the whole session and studio musician thing. Eventually answered a random Craigslist ad, actually, for a cruise ship gig. And, when I found out it was serious, moved forward and, got a gig working for Carnival Cruise Line, where I performed for a few years, became musical director. That's how I met Eric Lundgren and you. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Following that, I used to teach kids how to be in rock bands, but I would teach kids as young as 4 and adults as old as 65, how to play rock band instruments and stuff like that. Then in 2020, during the pandemic, like everybody else, I had a lot more free time at home, because there was no going out, of course. So,
and this is post cruise ship career, right?
Post cruise ship career. Yeah. Yep. So, I came across a video that Christian Henson of Spitfire Audio put out, where he was describing how to make vertical music, and I was like, man, I don't even know what that is. I clicked on it, and of course, it's vertical adaptive music, so layers of music, like you would have in a video game. And I just became so like enamored with this concept. It was so revolutionary for me that I just started looking into game audio and realizing like that it's just the coolest world that combines like my creative side with my technical side. And so I've been devoting nearly every moment since to try to get to know it better and to just get really proficient at at working within those parameters. So.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, man, it's scary how parallel our our lives are,
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the synopsis. Why is I felt the same thing with the adaptive audio thing because I read Winifred Phillips' book, and that kind of got me interested in it. I did like a Udemy course that introduced me to Fmod and Unity. You, like me, found the whole adaptive audio thing interesting. Why is that so? It's funny because it's like it's like living in a house for years and years and then discovering this room that you didn't know existed, which is like you played music for years and years and then all of a sudden you found out that you can like produce music that like changes and adapts to someone else's input, which is game audio. And it's like I think that's why for me I got like infatuated with it, and I'll couple that with the fact that it's like, oh, this is a potential career that I could develop. So it's like, is that kind of similar how you
pretty much? Yeah. I'm always really motivated to figure out how stuff works.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like doing research has always been, a big part of me. So, breaking things down. So when I saw, or when I started to like, watch more videos on game audio, or just read more books about it and stuff like that, it was so intriguing because there was this whole side of music that existed, whole side of like sound, audio, everything that that was just so foreign to what I was doing, playing linear stuff or improvised jazz or something like that.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand at the time how it works. Just really wanted to. I felt like iced out, right? But so yeah, I couldn't be more curious at that time, and so pursued it, learned as much as possible about it, and then luckily I've learned a lot more about it by actually doing it.
Yeah. So, and we again similar paths. So you started doing game jams, and what was the game jam on the game that you're working on now? We can introduce that if you like.
Sure. So the first game jam I participated in was
very first one. First one. There it is. Yep.
Yeah. So I entered
Not
it
jealous.
actually on your suggestion. And I was, for anyone out there who's considering hopping into a game jam, just do it. I was really surprised at just like how easygoing everybody was. Most people expect mistakes to happen, and it just will. But you all have the same goal of like learning something, and so as long as you learn something, you don't really lose. You know. So
it's like being in a it's like being in a startup company, but there's like the stakes are very low, and you're like you're already exceeding expectations as you walk in the door.
Yeah, exactly.
Now it depends on like the result, the end goal of the project you're working on, but
totally. Yeah. So I had joined. It was Pixel Game Jam. No, it's actually called Pixel Jam. 2022. It was the second year they ran this, and basically the whole idea was just pixelated games, right? So they had to have pixel artwork, and then just satisfy a couple of requirements. It ran over about 4.5 days, so we had about 4.5 days to put together the entire game from scratch. I had less time than that to learn Fmod, and learn how to actually put stuff how to actually implement the audio, put it all in the game. So it was pretty tough, a couple late nights there, but we did it, and I learned more in that 4 days than, than I had in the entire previous year of studying this stuff, Our game, Duck Paradox, actually ended up winning that game jam, and so we won some prizes, and now the game's going to be up on Steam, and it comes out on July 8th.
Nice.
So, search Duck Paradox on Steam, DUCK space PARADOX. And
what kind of game is it? For people?
So it's a 2D platformer where basically you play as this scientist doctor who invents a time machine, but her pet duck wanders into it, and so it ends up exploding into a bunch of different timelines, gets all messed up, and then so you've got to go rescue throughout each level all of the versions of your pet duck, while these glitched out bad ducks are trying to come and kill you. So I
love that premise. Yeah,
yeah,
it's the first time I've heard the actual description of it too.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Well, because we've only discussed the audio stuff, because that's
that's true.
Yeah. But that's a good.
So
you already hooked me with the premise. So.
Yeah. So you've just got to repair the timeline by collecting all the ducks, and then there you go. Now it has an interesting mechanic that has been rather polarizing, but overall we're getting some pretty positive
within the team
feedback on it. No, just within users, because it makes it hard and it makes it interesting. So those who are looking for 10 minutes of really easy gameplay, well, it's not for them. But if for 10 minutes, it's also not the most difficult game in the world or anything like that. So it's fun to be frustrated, by a trap you set for yourself.
Yeah.
And by that I mean so these bullets never die until they kill an enemy. So yeah, so they'll just keep bouncing around in the level forever. So if you just think you're going to go in and just shoot a million bullets, and that's how you're going to get through this game all easy, well, then you usually can't get back to where you started from, bring the duck back to the time machine or something, because there's too many bullets to pass.
Right.
So one cool new feature that we recently added to was that because it's a kind of a timeline, or time-oriented game, there's actually a time slowdown feature that you have, and so you can kind of, let's see, I don't want to drop any
trademarked
specific trademarked movies here, but you can think early 2000s.
I'm not gonna get sued. We're pretty small time over here.
You can kind of do the Matrix sort of slowdown thing to dodge bullets. And
Warner Brothers, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Don't send me any more letters.
Right. Man. Yeah, so that just makes it way more fun, and then man, there's so much more to it now that even you haven't seen. So
because we talked about it was a couple weeks, probably last month, I would say.
Yeah. So my recommendation is, if you have 10 minutes, cool, you're still gonna have fun with this game.
Yeah.
If you have half an hour, sure, you might get through half the levels or something like that. If you have a day, sure, you can probably beat the game. But then we also have an endless mode. Where you can see how long you're going to survive. And, of course, somebody's going to, some people are going to be very competitive about that. So it's going to be fun.
Well, and if you're going to try a mechanic that makes it really hard, it would be on a game like this, where it's like an indie thing. And, you're not trying to be I don't know. It shouldn't say what you're trying to be, but it's you can test the limits with this type of thing,
Yep.
Because it's more and I assume that most of the people involved with it, most things that come out of game jams, you're mostly trying to add to your portfolio. But then it's the type of thing where if it makes some money, that's cool too.
Yep.
Yeah, man. That's awesome. I think that I want to play the game now from your description of it. Yeah. So I mean, how has been Like I was joking about the jealous thing, but it is kind of funny that like I've been doing was doing game jams for like a year and a half maybe, and then like I had a bad experience and I kind of like I took a break from it and
Sure.
all that stuff. But I was like, yeah, you should try game jams and blah blah blah, and you're like, yeah, all right. And then the very first one you had, you won it.
Yeah.
It's just like, all right.
I know it was crazy.
It made me actually get back into the saddle with it because I'm like, well, if he could find, I just found the wrong people each time, you know, and sometimes you luck out right away and sometimes it takes a while, but
for sure.
Because I'm working on, we're actually the results are announced today. I don't know if we won based on our current prototype that we have, but it's a game about shooting enemies. It's called Deathland Drifters. It's for the Greenlight Jam, and
Nice.
I talked to one of the other programmers, and there's some interest in completing it. But you helped me with that, in that you helped me with some Shepard Tones stuff, which you have in your Duck Paradox soundtrack too.
Yep.
Which I have to crack as to why I can't get it to work in Logic, like all the little artifacts, and I just have to work at it. But
for sure.
You basically helped me get a good Shepard Tone loop, but like I struggled with all the little artifacts that appear from the pitch shifting, and I just need to. My plan is to have maybe like a pack of them that I can draw from. Maybe not to sell, but idea. Like make like 10 or 20 Shepard Tones of different textures, and go from there. But
I don't know if they exist on any of the asset stores, but if you did 12 of them, one for each key, something like that, man. I mean, it would really, I think it would really help.
Like have the starting point be at that pitch, and then interesting. Yeah, that's an idea.
They make a lot of music more interesting and more tense, right? And I mean, it just could be a really useful time saver,
Yeah. And just having you, because it came from you, you just sent me a file and it just worked immediately. And it was a lifesaver. No, and so for people listening who don't know what a Shepard Tone is, it's a loop that creates the illusion of constantly rising pitch. So it like creates this tension. Anyway, you can go see it. If you look up, there's a Vox video. I actually just sent this to my mother-in-law of the Dunkirk soundtrack is a good example of that.
Yep.
But anyway, man. Well, that's awesome, and so that's on Steam. Duck Paradox is on Steam already. Is it like a wish list thing, or is it out? It's out now. Or it's July 8th. You said July 8th.
Yeah, July 8th. So I'm sure this will be out after July 8th. So if it's after July 8th, yeah, definitely go check it out right now.
Yeah.
Yes. It's I mean, it's not something like you're gonna have to like get all set up in your house, like I don't know, playing Arkham Asylum or something like that. You gotta devote 2 hours to it. No, like just hop on, download it. You'll have fun if you play it for 10 minutes or 20 minutes, several days. Doesn't matter. You'll have fun.
Yeah. Good stuff, man. So like all right, so yeah, we have the HTML page of Shepard Tone. I'm just reading through my notes.
Yeah, sure. Is that your cat or my cat?
That is my cat. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right.
She's freaking out.
That's fine. Could I actually ask you on maybe a point?
Please. Sure.
How did your game jam go? How did I guess like how'd that all work out? What was your experience? Was it better than
this last
time?
one,
like,
or
this last one that you did.
This is the first game jam I've done in a while. So it was kind of like I was, I feel like I was maybe a little pushy in past game jams where it's like I'm in my mid 30s and I'm trying to like get like a really awesome portfolio piece together, and I'm working with like maybe 19, 20-year-olds who are, maybe not as, focused on that, and they just kind of want to like learn and do a smattering of, learning projects. But Yeah, no. So this one I kind of came into it more like I approached it differently in that when I was choosing a team, I was a little more like I did a little more research at that stage of it, and I feel like that really helped. And you helped me with that because I was sending you like, you know, like what do you think of this person's itch page or like blah blah blah, and I was sending stuff to Gunner too, kind of going like, do they seem based on your experience like do they seem like I specifically cited like the people working on Duck Paradox. Do they is the art style as like is this up to the level that you think would be the person doing the art in Duck Paradox?
Yeah.
And it's not that I was like I need them to be that level and all that stuff, but I was just kind of, you know, there's certain I'm getting used to the red flags with things like if they only have like a couple games and they're unfinished and you're like. If you look at someone's portfolio and the best they can come up with is that like a benchmark for the type of skill you're looking for. And all I wanted was, you know, like I'm not looking for professionals. Like we're all here learning, right?
Sure.
But I want to at least kind of cross the finish line with this thing because that was my big disappointment with the last one I did was that we sunk a whole bunch of time into it and it went nowhere.
Yeah.
And that's a very common thing with any kind of game development, especially game jams. But at the stage of choosing like who to contact and be like, hey, I write music. And by the way, I contacted like 10 different people and there was, you know, only a couple people got back and then, you know, whatever. So there's a certain amount of risk anyway, but I put a little bit more time into the research stage of choosing. And I think that paid off because, you know, these people, you know, there was just more expertise than previous jams that I've done. And, like, you know, people were sending, like, what do you think of this color scheme?
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so this time has been better. A lot of... I was a little bit like going into it. I was kind of gung ho about the F-mod thing because I was like, I got Adam Brown in my back pocket. If I run into trouble, I can call him.
Yep.
So I was like, let's go, let's do this, let's set it up. I'll learn all this integration and stuff.
Yep.
The integration part of stuff is not my strong suit. It's such a steep drop off for me. I don't do it all the time. So it's like you go and you do one tutorial. And then you don't look at that tutorial for another year or 2 years or something, right? So it's like, if I'm not doing it all the time, then it's just I'm not going to get really good at it. So I ended up kind of leaning on the one of the programmers a little heavier than I wanted to.
Sure.
But it went better, and there was sort of like there's more maturity with this group than past ones where it's like they understood scope and like, okay, we could probably do this, but let's just get a nice functional vertical slice of a game working. So it's been better.
Nice.
So expectations were managed and they were good. There wasn't too much pressure on anybody and it was good. We all kind of came together with the thing and it worked pretty well, I think.
Nice. Did you guys use any like version control or project management stuff or anything like that, or just kind of
not really? We kind of just used Google Docs.
Okay.
This one, and I was kind of like, because it was like, luckily we all used the same programs and stuff. We all were using Unity, and we used GitHub for that. I guess if that's what you meant. Sorry.
So that would do it. You know.
Yeah.
That would allow for version control.
I guess I thought you meant like the Notion and Trello boards and stuff like that. We didn't use any of those, but
that would be like the project management stuff. So
we didn't really use that so much because it was more like we had a meeting and we made a checklist of like audio stuff and then visual stuff and then blah blah blah. So
there you go. You can call that a stand-up meeting. You know, so you're now used to stand-ups and you know. So, you know, if you're not aware of it, use, look up Agile, workflow or whatever. And
all
then
the
go.
corporate stuff. Whatever LinkedIn post you want to, So yeah, no, it's been good. We're gonna finish it.
Nice.
This particular one is kind of like a space western style soundtrack. So they wanted some guitar, some acoustic stuff. I might get some actual live guitar on it. But I've been using a VST for that, and it's interesting because you kind of are limited. Like I found
Definitely.
out there's the one I'm using is like they have a slide up, but not a slide down, which is infuriating. Like that they would not include the other, include one and not the other. But anyway, it's fine. I worked around it, but there was I reached a point in the main theme where I was like, this would sound so good if there was just a ding gong,
Yeah.
and I just couldn't do it. So I had to move on to a different idea. But yeah. So like you're getting into sound design a little bit more than you were.
Yep.
I think like me, you're seeing that like there's value in, if you're trying to get a game audio job, it's like as a composer, you're a little more limited as far as your opportunity starting out than you would be necessarily with like, maybe an audio engineer or a sound designer type position. Is there, what are your, well, first off, how do you enjoy sound design?
I do. I especially, let's see, I guess where I'm happiest at it and feeling most comfortable, I guess, is typically when I actually have to make all the source sounds myself. So, I mean, I do use, plenty of sound libraries and things, in a pinch. But on the most recent project I did for another game jam, I decided to do probably 85-90% of it just recorded fully from around my house, and then just cleaned everything up in Isotope RX.
Absolutely, yeah.
And there's such a clear I guess road to get from the sound you hear in your head and then just being able to recreate that with household objects versus getting disconnected by having to go through a bunch of libraries. And I don't know whether that could help me or hurt me in some regards, but ultimately I end up producing a lot more work quicker that way, and I think that's fun. I guess where this sort of way of approaching it too kind of came about for me was let's see, last year my wife and I had our first child, and I started noticing that all of his baby toys just sound so different from everything that I own. And oftentimes, they just make these wonky sounds that I couldn't get anywhere else. Or he'll be playing with something in the weirdest way, and it'll make just a funny sound. And so I'm just getting this inspiration, from a baby on how to come up with cool sounds. And he gets the wheels turning. For me, and then I try to take that and run with it, and actually put it in a game. And so
I love that. That's cool. You just set up a little, just record him for an afternoon or something, and
I try to do that for music too sometimes. He and I'll just sit down and play piano, and he just kind of hits stuff, but sometimes there's a cool rhythm or a method to what he's doing or something, in the weirdest way, or just some strange chord that ends up sounding great. And I'm like, man, I got to take that idea and run with it. And so there's this extra layer of passion for me right now,
That's cool, man.
Yeah, because my child's involved. I just think it's pretty cool.
No, and I think you make a good point about recording, your own sounds versus going to a library. It's you're gonna get. I find myself, it's intuitive for me because and what I was gonna ask is do you think being a musician has helped you sort of develop an intuition towards sound design? Because I feel sound design is definitely its own sphere, right? But there's lots of things that I feel years and years of ear training have that's definitely going to put you at an advantage when you're doing sound design. And being able to go like, oh, is this whoosh noise gonna be right for this, or does it need to be heavier sounding, or and like and like developing like the skill of getting from point A to point B, whether it's like, do I get a larger pole to make the whoosh noise, or do I just add a pitch shifter in the program, or like what am I best at, or what am I fastest at, or what household items are gonna sound the best for this particular one. And that's I think I like all these stories about like, so and so made this sound with this weird source cue or whatever. Like there was there's a Vanny Audio. It's someone I follow on Instagram. And she's a sound designer who posts a bunch of like tutorial stuff, and she works in like Pro Tools and Isotope stuff, lots of tutorials. And she posted some like, guess what the source cue is. And it was some creature growling thing, but it was like this goo putty stuff in a cup, and she's blowing air through a straw into the cup so that it's doing this like bubbling kind of thing. So it's like this, but it sounds not human because it's not. It's a goo in a cup.
Definitely.
So I'm like, that's awesome, just weird things like that I wouldn't have thought of. But yeah, man, I think that it seems like, to me, being a musician going into sound design, like there's a lot. I think of it like coloring a little bit, and maybe that's oversimplifying it. And I'm not an expert sound designer. I'm still very new to it, but I'm diving like headfirst into it and doing like redesigns right now to try to add to my reel. And like it's just finding the right sound is like very paramount. It's like, does this have the right weight and texture, and like all the little down to the very granular details of like what is wrong with this? Like, is there anything that sounds inappropriate? And it's very much like producing a track of music where it's like you need another set of ears on it. Like that golf video thing that you sent me.
And that's one of the golf videos, actually, one of the few recently that I haven't like layered some type of synth sound onto. I like the whole Akash Takar, and I don't know if it originates with him, but he has a video about the HMLS technique, and that's for a sound you've got to have something high, something in the mid range, something low, and then of course something special. So usually I do think about that for sure.
Akash Takar, very well-known game audio sound designer person.
So I try to use like a synth or something for kind of that special layer, like usually just like a pad or something like that that I can just layer in a touch to the sound, and with that, like I usually try to choose a chord or something that communicates the feeling that I want the listener to have when they hear it. Because I find sometimes that for whatever devs I'm working with, I can actually fix the sound for them just by like layering in that chord and giving them a certain feeling rather than going back to the drawing board.
Interesting.
Because if they hear it differently than I do, if they're like, oh, it sounds too happy, well, what if I go in there and I put in like a chord that I know is.
Can you give an example of like what do you mean? Like you're adding a chord, but it's not in a musical. I guess it's debatably in a musical way, but like what would an example of an actual source cue be?
Sure. So, I got to thinking of this when, I guess when I first came across some transcriptions years ago of like the Mario sound effects, from back in the day, So like, when you pick up a coin, it's that sort of thing there. And it's really just two notes, right? It's not like a sound effect recorded somewhere, it's a B and then an E just played in a certain rhythm, and boom, there you go. So there's something about that just sounds like, oh, I just succeeded. So
it's ascending. It's like a comfortable. It's a fourth, right? So it's like a nice familiar interval.
And likewise, like if it's something maybe you weren't supposed to do, or if it's a bad coin, maybe you flip it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
something like that could give you the feeling, that you want.
Yeah.
I use a lot of sus chords, especially for like UI type stuff or like buttons or
Okay.
things that, just, of course are, because a sus chord's not really going to have, a super defined like happy or sad quality. So, like maybe we'd have a sword hit, but I'd have like, like
Yeah.
layered in with it, and if you layer it in just enough, well, sometimes you can still get that certain feeling
Yeah.
that you want it to have, but it's also kind of like a magical layer, but it
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
sounds like the source audio, like
Yeah.
the actual sword materials or whatever, And
Well, and that's so interesting because like that's a direct like combination of your musical knowledge with just like like I like voicing things in clusters.
Yeah,
if I'm
totally.
ready for a horn section because I like
Oh,
how they bounce, the vibrations kind of like rub together, and
Absolutely.
because of if all music is just dissonance versus consonance and going back and forth between the two, then kind of the same thing could be said for sound design because it's like
Yeah.
not in how it's like tension resolution and back and forth, but like the fact that you can add like a little like weird interval to like denote this is a bad coin.
Yeah.
I love that. That's so cool because like you've opened up you can apply that to so many different things, and like not even because and the first thing I think of with that is like a more like cartoony kind of platformer Mario looking thing.
Yep.
Where it's like you can kind of be literal with it, where it's like I'm gonna actually just layer in this interval, blah blah blah.
Yep.
But you could apply that to, I think you could apply that to a lot of anything. But like the first thing I think of is like adding like dialogue. If you wanted to layer in like the same voice but pitched down, and then you could pitch them down in chords. So when they talk, they're talking in this voicing kind of thing. That's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it's always one of the first things I experiment with, I guess, whenever I'm doing sound design or dialogue editing, like you said, because you can get some otherworldly effects by just creating odd dissonances, and stuff like that.
Well, and it's like it's interesting learning all this audio production stuff. Just not like I'm not doing it in any kind of formal way. I'm just going and doing it. A lot of it is like just thinking of the possibilities.
Yep. Yep.
Getting inspiration from of like, oh, you can actually just do this with these tools, and obviously part of that is knowing the tools well enough. But
sure. Yep. I don't know. I find that like if I'm not 100% getting my point across, that it's like, okay, I could really land this better. Okay, let me layer in a chord or a sound that I know is going to communicate that, and then somehow that just like typically pulls it together, and communicates what I'm trying to articulate. So
I love that. That's awesome.
I'll do it till it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah. So I wrote this thing down, and it's sort of my own indulgent. I'm asking just in general, but like, I've realized that I'm sort of, this podcast started as like talking about creativity, which is such a general out of scope thing. But I guess I'm more realizing that, because it's just kind of a reflection of where I am in my life and stuff, right? But like I've realized I'm kind of more interested. I'm almost obsessed, I guess, with the process of like crafting something, whether that's like a chair, whether that's like watching my dad build like our kitchen cabinets as a kid, or watching my mom draw something, or watching like that guy, the primitive building videos. You ever see those? Like the time-lapse videos of the guy building like a house in Indonesia with his bare hands. Which is, I think they're fake. I don't know if someone told me they're fake. Like they have like a backhoe behind the camera or something. But
they are. I don't want to know.
Yeah, I know. I love it. But yeah, it shows like a time lapse of this guy like building like a whole like swimming pool out of clay kind of thing.
Yep.
But like that stuff fascinates me, and it's interesting too because my dad was just telling me about, like, I called him and he's like, mom's like, she's going, your father's watching YouTube videos about logs. Of just, like, I guess, and it's like carving stuff out of logs and whatever. But like, I guess I've been exposed to more of this kind of thing through trying to network with people through Instagram and like artists and animators and trying to find people like, hey, can I add sounds to your video? I end up finding a lot of like work in progress clips and all this stuff, and just, I guess it's like, do you find, is it because it's like you're seeing the process of it being made? It seems to be more satisfying to see the end result than if you just see the end result. Like, obviously, like, I'll go see a movie that, you know, and I'll just enjoy the movie for its final product, and that, like, I'm not going to enjoy watching like 10 hours of it being made versus just watching the 90-minute movie. But like, just seeing a slice of like how this was made. For example, like continuous shots. I have I follow a couple people on Instagram of just like these filmmakers who they show like half the screen is the final shot, and half the screen is like somebody filming them filming it, and it's like all these, like, you see one person in the frame, but then you see this entire crew like swarming around them, changing the set, and like, you know, it's, I find that stuff so fascinating. And is it, I don't know, do you think that that's because like seeing how it was crafted and created makes it more satisfying to see the end result?
Totally. Yeah, I would say without a doubt, because okay, you know, obviously there's a technical side to me, or I wouldn't be doing game audio, but you know, the artist half of me, and I think all artists can agree with this somewhat, is that a lot of times the process is the art. You know? So, yeah, a lot of times the process is the art. So, you know, I tend to leave like little happy accidents in, or something that are just going to be jokes for me, or, you know, something for me to bring up to the devs way down the road and be like, you know, this was actually made from this thing you did, you know, that I recorded, or just stuff like that. And it feels like, you know, more a piece of you. And and I like that, you know. There's a lot of fun memories to that, you know, like the one Easter egg that, you know, came from the last Game Jam game I did. I was doing dialogue editing for it, and it's like this guided therapy session, sort of, and there's like 40 dialogue cues. And I was batch editing them, and I accidentally unmuted them all at one point, just from, you know, selecting all the tracks. And of course, because they're all lined up, they all played together. And so, yeah, it was just like this, you know, otherworldly like sound, you know, just all of this chaos going on at once, you know, just like swimming in reverb and, you know, stuff. And so, so I was like, you know what, like, this is going to be the basis of like the final like enemy, because it's a manifestation of like all your, you know, inner problems anyway.
Nice.
So I started building things around that, and, you know, of course, the end result, it just sounds like a sound, you know, collectively. But if you were to like hardcore pay attention, you might start to realize that, you know, there's like all these voices going on. But you know, I doubt it. You know, if you're playing an action-packed boss fight, so you know, it was a lot of fun. I guess, you know, pulling a Bob Ross there, and, you know, finding a happy accident and just going with it. And, you know, so that, you know, I learned something. I expanded my horizons to realize, like, well, another type of creative process, you know, maybe, or like a way to get a result, you know, in the future. You know, I tried something new I've never tried before, albeit by accident, you know, so, you know, listening to that sound brings back so many like positive memories to me now, because it's like, man, like, it's just so funny how I got there, you know?
Yeah, man. No, and it's, I feel like that type of thing where it's like you say like, oh, it's all the stuff that's invisible on first consumption of like, say, like a video game or a movie or whatever, of that notion that there's some artist adding their little stamp to something where it's like, because this the boss character is a manifestation of all your problems. I have this multiple voice thing going on that someone playing the game might not notice, but like there's all the, and how many times does that happen, right? It's like, and how much of that, because we're just used to consuming finished media. That's like, we have a certain standard that nowadays it's like everybody, even like, untrained ears, just as consumers have, like an idea of this sounds finished or not, this sounds professional or not. But it's like that threshold of sounding professional is crossed and completed by having an amalgamation of all these artists adding their little stamp to it and making it like it serves the vision of that project more than it serves any one artist creating that project, and the amalgamation of all these things coming together makes this superior product that people love. I think that touches on why I want to have a career in this kind of field, because it's like it's fun blowing into a tube. I love it. It's awesome. But there's something about contributing to something as a team and contributing to something that's greater than the sum of its parts that is very, very, very satisfying in a different way than playing a jazz saxophone solo.
But one thing I've learned about this industry too, is especially the audio side of games, is that everybody is just so darn helpful.
And I don't know if that's just because, like, by comparison, musicians are less helpful, but like I don't think that's the case. But I think that game audio specifically, like, and of the podcasts and media that I've consumed surrounding this subject, game audio people seem to be just very, very helpful and like will pass on some knowledge, and because I've done these like redesigns and stuff and sent them to these contacts that I've made through this person or that person. I have like a list of people that I sent this stuff to, and they are just like certain people will send me back like a video, like a YouTube video of them critiquing it in like live, because it's like it's like, one, it's faster for them, but like they like, that's amazing, like that you took time to sit and go like, what would be really cool here is if like you had like this suck in thing before the explosion happened to like really emphasize the explosion. Like, amazing. And it's, the stuff is there, the people have all these game audio professionals have the knowledge, and they're ready to give it to you if you're willing to seek them out and like do some work and try it.
Absolutely.
It's great. It's awesome.
Yeah. That's the thing that absolutely like attracts me to this industry, and what kind of really hooked me into it. For one, everybody's motivated. Everybody's motivated to finish stuff.
Yes.
And you and I both know that that's not always the case for musicians. Sometimes they're so laid back that nothing gets accomplished. Which hey, there's some fun in that. That's cool, but for work.
Well, it depends on what your goal is, right? If you're supposed to be the guy in a piano bar who's the life of the party, and you're easygoing and blah 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 blah, and you have all your stuff together, then you're doing your job,
That's
but
true.
It's like deadlines.
Exactly. And I just I think I've grown super attracted to just working with these kinds of nice, happy, motivated people.
But it makes you want to be that person too, right?
Yeah,
like it
exactly,
makes me want to, like, if
on.
I get a job at a company and someone comes to me for advice, I want to give them advice.
Yeah,
because that's what I got, So
yeah, absolutely.
I think it's a good kind of way to live on top of being
totally.
a good way of operating your business,
Yeah, totally.
Because I mean, like, there's jobs out there. I think the more I had this conversation with a saxophone player out here in Vegas of basically saying like, and it was dark. It was during the pandemic, and it's like, what if this person's not working? Then what hope do I have? And they were kind of like, I think that musicians tend to take care of each other out here. And he kind of just took me by the shoulders and turned me around a little bit. Metaphorically speaking. It's just because it's like, it's true. Like the evidence is there. It's like if I don't look at it like, oh, this person has this gig. It's like, well, I'm still getting called for all this stuff here. So it's like, and who am I? I'm like I'm down the list of like, whatever. Anyway, so
yeah,
I think that there's plenty of work for everybody, and I think that a good attitude to have is one of just being helpful, and if you're helpful, then people will help you back. So, kumbaya and all that shit.
Well put.
Yeah. Well, so I want to sort of like wrap it up there to review. Yep. Do you have so where do you want to direct people's attention as far as helping you succeed?
Sure. So you can find me on my website at adambrownaudio.com.
Yes.
And that's where, I try to post, links to all my games there, composing work, sound design work, keyboards work. I'm available for a lot of stuff. And then soon, very, very soon here, I'll be on the Unity Asset Store as well. And then hopefully soon after on Real Asset Store and whatnot. So for any game devs listening, the asset that I'm working on right now for Unity is adaptive music, vertical layering, a whole album of it that's adaptive, but it's not custom. So if you can't yet afford custom adaptive music, maybe you can still pay a small fee and have something that you can use where you can change the music just by calling certain parameters, and boom, there you go. That works for now. Visit my website, adambrownaudio.com, and get on the mailing list. And there'll be some free tracks and assets to try out that way. And then soon following, there'll be a full album for you on Unity Asset Store. So the nice thing about this adaptive music, I should say, is that you don't need Fmod, you don't need Elias, you don't need Wise, nothing like that. It just works with the native Unity audio. So so it's kind of perfect for like game jams and stuff like that if you don't have an audio guy.
Yeah. So, and I think for any game dev or anyone listening, really a great way to even if you're not going to use the files, if you just want to like help a brother out, go and buy his asset pack because it's there.
For sure.
I think it's good to have. It's sort of like you make this. It's like a tip jar. No, you do good work, so it's like you'll have useful stuff in there too. So it's good.
Thank you. Yep.
Yeah, man. And then so check out Duck Paradox on Steam.
Yep.
Also.
Definitely visited that on Steam. Yeah, that's I think you'll have a lot of fun.
Yeah. All right, that was the episode. Make sure you check out Adam's website, adambrownaudio.com. And as of recording this, Duck Paradox doesn't have a Steam page link yet, but I will put those in the show notes as I'm planning on releasing this around the same time that's released. So go check that out. All right. I've decided to turn myself into a gargoyle and fly to the next episode. Okay, here we go.
Okay, bye.